And my name is Bill Bronchick, the host and president of COLA. And tonight we're going to talk about 25 ways to find bargain rental properties. So we're going to go through this pretty quick. So if you have questions as you go, pop them in the Q&A or in the chat box, and I'll be happy to clarify or provide some answers for you. Some preliminary thoughts as we go through this. Number one, there is no magic bullet for finding properties. You have to employ multiple strategies to find good bargain properties. It takes work, so you have to do it. These are not the type of deals that are going to fall in your lap, so you have to go out and shake the trees a little bit. Having money helps if you don't have the time, because many of the strategies I'll talk about require some money. Many don't. So if you have some money, set aside a monthly budget, whether it be 200, 500, 1,000. There's no amount of money that's too much to spend on effective marketing. That is marketing that brings you in good leads that turn into deals. And have a system to track your leads. You have probably heard the idea that it takes at least 7 touches with a customer to get them to buy. And it's pretty much the same way with motivated sellers. You have to talk to them often multiple times before they make a decision to sell to you. So it costs more money to get the phone to ring with a new lead, much more money than it does to follow up with an old lead. So make sure you have a system to track your leads and follow up with them, whether it be a CRM, a spreadsheet, just folders on your desk. I used to do it with index cards. I used to take a Polaroid of the house, yes, and write down the address because it's so hard to do on a digital camera these days. And I would write notes on it, put it in a card box that I had, a plastic card box that had dividers 1 through 30 for the days of the month. And I know when I talk to someone, I take notes or I left a message, whatever, follow up in 2 weeks, follow up in 30 days, whatever it is. So I know whatever day of the month it is, I just go into that little index card box and find the leads I have to follow up on. It wasn't real sophisticated. My point is that you do not have to spend a lot of time, money, and effort on a sophisticated follow-up system. Just do something that works. So the first one I want to talk about is expired MLS listings. That is properties that were listed on the MLS and then the listing expired. I mean, it didn't sell within the listing period. Now, sometimes realtors will rebake, so to speak, the listing by taking it off for a week or two, taking new pictures and then putting it right back on. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about properties that were listed for maybe 90 days or more and didn't sell, and the seller decided to just take it off the MLS for a while and try something else. And you could buy a list of those people. You can buy a list of anything just about. You can mail to them, call them, or just go door knock on them. And you will find that a lot of these people, either it could be, there's a lot of reasons why something didn't sell. Most likely it just wasn't priced right. So either the realtor or the homeowner or both overpriced it. And what happens is when a listing gets stale, sits a while, and you're dropping it only slightly, then no one wants to buy. They say, oh, that property, I've seen that one 4 or 5 times. I've been looking. So you have to, quote, rebake the listing to clean that up. And if they don't, they end up just dropping the listing with the realtor, blame it on the realtor, and maybe you can make a deal with that homeowner. Number 2, Craigslist. Now, most people on Craigslist look at for sale by owners. Those are people selling without a realtor, which is, of course, extremely knuckleheadish, if that's a word. Most people who sell a house list with a real estate broker on the MLS, where they get the most exposure. Why is someone selling for sale by owner on Craigslist? Well, it could be a number of reasons. It could be that they don't trust realtors. Okay. It could be that they think they could do it without a realtor. Dumb. They may think that they can list it for a little while on their own, see if they can get full price without having to pay a realtor. And if that doesn't work, then they'll list it with a realtor. Common. Uh, or just could be that maybe they listed it with a realtor for 6 months and it didn't work. And now they're going to go try and go on their own. That's a good motivated seller. Or maybe they owe too much. There's no room for a realtor fee. That could be a potential short sale deal. So there's a lot of reasons why people sell for sale by owner, but you will find that most of these people are a little kooky, not living in reality, or just plain old stubborn or greedy, just want too much money. I would instead focus more on for rent by owners, So go through the properties for rent, look for what looks like, Joe Landlord and not a property management company or a professional. Call them up and say, hey, I saw your ad on Craigslist, not looking to rent, but I'm a landlord like you. Do you have any interest in selling? And it's not even a difficult conversation. It's not like you're dealing with a homeowner who says, you're an investor, you're going to steal my property. And, you ask prying questions and they're like, why do you need to know that? With a landlord to landlord conversation, it's much easier, much easier. Also look on the commercial section. Yes, there's a commercial real estate section on Craigslist. A lot of people don't even know it exists. Now, about half of that is office leases or subleases, but sometimes you come across things like apartment buildings, car washes, retail storefronts, and you could search through Craigslist with keywords like owner will carry, seller will finance, things like that, to see if you can do something creative. Searchtempest.com is a great website that allows you to search through multiple cities in Craigslist at once. So if you're looking in multiple cities, for example, you live in California where the numbers may not work and you're looking at other cities, you could put a dozen cities into the search parameters of Search Tempest. Like, let's say you're going to go in commercial section of 12 different cities and search the words owner will carry or seller will finance to find some sort of commercial property that someone's willing to finance. And you could set it up so it will give you notifications when it discovers something with the keyword match, and it's free. That was worth it right there. That was worth the whole webinar. Searchtempest.com. Out-of-state owners, one of my favorites. You can buy a list of out-of-state owners, very easy to purchase, mail them, call them, and maybe if they have a unique enough name, Facebook message them. I mean, a quarter of America is on Facebook at least. If they have a unique name, look them up, just type their name and their city on Facebook in the search parameter, and you may find them and just click and message them, and you never know what you're going to get until you ask. So Facebook messaging is also a great way to find absentee owners where the property's been abandoned or whatever. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I find it an excellent way to find people, better than any kind of other sleuthing. Next, VA loans. People with VA loans. Now, why VA loans? Well, veterans. Typically, veterans get deployed a lot. They move a lot. Unfortunately, a lot of stress on the marriage. They get divorced a lot. So there's a high probability that the person with a VA loan is thinking about moving. Also, they usually have great interest rates and little or no equity in the property because they don't put any money down on a VA loan. If they have maybe 5 or 10% equity, it might be a candidate for buying subject to that you could turn around and rent out. And they don't expect much because they didn't put anything into it. So you may get away with just taking over someone's payments, maybe making up a few back payments, or maybe giving them a little cash and taking over a property subject to the existing mortgage. So buy a list, same thing, mail them, call them, and maybe even go door knock. We'll talk about door knocking in a little bit, the art of door knocking, but door knocking can be very, very effective if you practice and you get good at it. Yeah, I'll come up with a video on door knocking or a mini course or something like that. I think that would be very helpful. Inherited properties. Now, this is different than probate properties. Probate properties are properties that are currently in the probate process. And an inherited property has already gone through probate and they've deeded the property to the heirs, or heir if it's only one of them. Now, how do you pick that up? It's picked up by the type of deed. It's called a personal representative or executor's deed. You can pull that off public record in some counties, and other ones just, when I say you could buy a list, where do I get this list, Bill? Just Google. There's 1,000 list providers. Listsource.com has a lot of those lists, but you can find the inherited list at a number of different places if you're not able to search in your county website. So you could buy a list. One of the list sources that sells the inherited property list is usleadlist.com, US Lead List, and tell them I sent you. And they only give the list out to 3 investors per county at a time. Although a county like LA, I imagine they make exceptions because there's so many people in there. But if they don't have your area available, use my name and try to bully them a little bit. Say, hey, Bill said you could do this for me. We can mail them. We can call them. You can do a number of things. It's not a big list. It comes out every quarter. And for a county area, usually we're talking about anywhere from 300 to 500 leads. I would just mail them a couple of times within that quarter of a year, and maybe cross-reference them through a database and call or text them. And by the way, when I say call could be text too. There's a lot of text services that you can buy or subscribe to. It's software that resides online. You import leads and you can blast a message out text to multiple people at once. Now, not every phone number that you get is a cell phone, but I'd be willing to bet that the numbers listed, if you could find them, are going to be at least 50% cell phones. At least most people these days don't have home phones, or they use cell phones, and even if they do have a home phone, they give out their cell phone number. So be willing to use those text services. There's many of them. Landlords. Landlords are a great source. Go to the local courthouse, pull eviction records, or you can do it online. Maybe if you have access to the local court records, you might have to subscribe to it, and focus on what we look for is what they call pro se landlords. That is landlords who are, Joe and Jane landlord. They file their own eviction. They don't use an attorney. That's what pro se means. They're going on their own. Extremely stupid, because unless you're doing 50 evictions a month, you're probably not that good at the system and figuring out the rules. You should hire an attorney to do it. But some people are stubborn and or cheap, and they'll go in and file the papers on their own and do it. It's not terribly difficult, but it is technical, and you can screw it up many times. Usually this type of landlord takes it very personally and is very angry, and this could be a good time to hit them for the idea of selling their property. Because let's face it, what landlord with a vacant property hasn't thought to themselves, might now be a good time to sell, especially after they just had an eviction. Flyers and door hangers. Pick a neighborhood, hire some kids, and blanket the area. Now, when I say flyers and door hangers, don't get real fancy here. Don't go with color, glossy brochures and fancy glossy door hangers. Go real simple. If you go to Kinko's, they will print you on cardboard stock, 3 up with a punched out hole, and they cut them in 3s. You could literally take a Sharpie, a fat Sharpie, and write, need to talk to you about the house, Bill, phone number, and then photocopy that onto the cardboard stock paper. They will cut the hole for the door hanger, and it's really cheap, and you can just put them on the door. In fact, if it's your own handwriting, leave a space at the top and write the person's name. Bob, need to talk to you about the house. Bill, phone number. Very mysterious, as opposed to a really fancy brochure that says we're investors and we buy houses in your neighborhood. That's a waste of time and a waste of money. People throw that out. Keep it simple. Keep it a little cheesy, a little corny, a little unprofessional, a little folksy. Okay? Don't put them in the mailbox, by the way. That is illegal. That violates federal law. So make sure you hang them on the door. Wholesalers, Google your area and sign up for their list. So Google, if you're in Tampa, Google Tampa wholesale houses. Google Tampa wholesaler real estate, wholesale properties, every variation. And you will find other wholesalers that are looking for properties themselves. And when they get one, they'll wholesale it to you as a landlord that you could buy it at a reasonable price and terms and rent it out. So they'll usually have a place on their website to sign up, tell them what type of properties you're looking for, put your email in there, put some information, and they will contact you when they find a deal. And look, most wholesalers only come across a deal or two a month, but if you're on 20 wholesalers lists, it's just another avenue or resource for wholesale deals. And go to RIA meetings, the Real Estate Investor Associations locally. They're starting to open back up now again. Give out your business card and let other wholesalers know what it is that you're looking for and to put you on their email list. By the way, take what wholesalers say with a grain of salt. They're no different than realtors. They puff a lot. They'll email you and say, wonderful wholesale deal. It's worth this. It only is going to take this much work. It'll rent for that. Take what they say with a grain of salt. Do your own due diligence. Don't rely on all of their research and information. Do your own, because either they could be wrong or fibbing, quite frankly, a little bit. HUD Homes, that's your next source. Go to HUDHomestore.com. Now, HUD Homes are foreclosed FHA properties. So FHA insures the loan that the bank gives with only 3.5% down, because no bank in their right mind would do that. So the government, Department of Housing and Urban Development, through the FHA program, the Federal Housing Administration, they insure these loans. And when they go bad, they look to HUD to bail them out. So HUD forecloses them, they put them in their inventory, and they turn around and put it out on a bid system. Now, the way it works is, first, they're going to offer it to owner occupants. And there's usually a 2-week period where they just accept bids from owner occupants. After that, they'll put it on what's called the extended listing. And then as an investor, you could bid, or as a homeowner, you could bid. But if they have side by side the same offer, they're going to take the homeowner because they want to promote home ownership. You could follow these properties by city, by zip code, whatever, at HUDHomestore.com, and you'll see whether it's on the regular list or the extended listing and the history of pricing and so on and so forth. And you'll have to go through a realtor who is HUD certified that could make an offer through the bidding system for you. Now, I said at first they offer for owner occupants. Some people cheat a little bit, but it's legal cheating. This is what they do. They'll have a nephew or a son or a daughter put in the offer. That person will buy it with an FHA loan, 3.5% down, that is gifted by the parents. They live there a year and they move out and then deed it over to the parent, who can turn around and rent it out. And they're only into the property for 3.5%. And that's completely legal, by the way. I mean, there's no law that says that a person who buys a property, a HUD property, or gets an FHA loan has to live in there forever. You make a soft promise that you're going to live there at least 12 months, but they can't enforce it. Now, if you never move in, if the borrower never moves in, they will get caught. They do check, but they check a few months after the closing. If your son or daughter or niece or nephew or cousin, whatever, moves into the property, even if it's not full time, they just put utilities in their name, credit card statements mailed there, They have a little bit of furniture. They stay there a few nights a week for 6 months or a year, and then they can move out. You give them some money, maybe as part of the deal, or let them stay free for the year, and then they can deed it over to your LLC, and then you can turn around and rent it out. Probate lawyers. So they generally get paid from the estate assets being sold. A lot of estate attorneys get a percentage of the value of the estate, and usually they get paid from the sale of the estate assets. So they're looking, if they have real estate, to sell, for the client to sell the property, and they get the proceeds that they can pay the lawyer with. So letting probate lawyers get a list of probate lawyers, mail them, email them. I wouldn't call them. They're probably not going to talk to you, but email and regular mail is just fine. So buy a list, email them, hard mail them. It's going to be hard to get their cell phone numbers because they're usually office numbers. So email is much more effective. The next category, affiliated businesses. That is businesses that are affiliated with real estate that might have a lead for you. Mortgage brokers. So someone goes to a mortgage broker, tries to get a refi and doesn't qualify. That mortgage broker could turn that lead over to you, the investor, with a sort of quid pro quo. Hey, if I get a tenant who buys a property from me, or I want to refi my loans, I'll go to you, and you refer non-workable leads that you couldn't finance to me. If someone is maybe behind in payments, and because of that, they can't qualify for a refi, and there's nothing the mortgage broker can do to help them, maybe they're out of work, that's a good lead. That's a very good lead that they should refer to you. Painters, they know about evicted, recent evictions and so forth. Carpet cleaners, the same. Handymen, fixing up properties that were trashed by a tenant for another landlord. Process servers, they serve eviction notices and so forth. So those are the type of people. Think about businesses that are affiliated with real estate that might have leads for motivated sellers. Next, join business clubs. Now, I said earlier, join RIA groups, the Real Estate Investor Associations, but you're competing with a lot of other investors, of course, but you'll meet a lot of people that you can buy from, sell to, partner with, etc. But joining a business club, typically you're going to be the only real estate investor in that group. So if anybody else, might have an insurance salesman, a CPA, a car salesman, and all different professions, when any one of them comes across a house lead, you're going to be the one they think of because you're the only one in the group. So joining like Rotary clubs, Chamber of Commerce, the Optimist Club, the women's luncheons and things like that, especially if you're a woman. So when men do go to women's lunches sometimes, but going to these things and letting them know what you do, these other people in the club don't know how to work a house deal, so they're going to refer it to you. Business cards, very important to hand out lots and lots of business cards. Now, this is an example of a really lame business card. This is a typical business card that I see at real estate investment groups and landlord groups. First of all, you got the little cartoon row of houses at the top. That's the first design on vistaprint.com. That's where everyone goes for cards. A lot of people are so cheap, they'll only do the free cards. You can get 500 free cards at Vistaprint, and they say on the back, get 500 free cards at Vistaprint. So if it says that on the back, that means the person you're dealing with was too damn cheap to spend $30 to get 500 business cards. I think you should spend more. I think you should spend $80 to get a really fancy business card, because you're dealing in multi-$100,000 assets. You should have a fancy business card. So this is a pretty crappy one. BG Properties, Bob and Gina Smith owners, duh, that's real original. What looks clearly on the bottom left like a home address, and a Gmail address, which is not BG Properties, but some bastardization of that with a few numbers in there. Very lame. Here's a much better business card. This is what a good business card looks like. Picture, logo, a brand name, TrueVestor, like truth in investing in real estate for a change. That's a tagline. Now, if you're not good at coming up with all this, go to Fiverr, Fiverr.com. Fiverr. Fiverr is a website where people will do stuff for about $5, some more, but they start at $5. So you could search through their business card design, logo design, come up with a tagline for my business, help me come up with a business name. And for $5 or $10, depending on who you hire, you can get all this stuff done. Now, bottom left, look at that. That address looks commercial, looks like an office. Now, it could be a UPS store for all we know, but it looks a lot better than the other address on the other business card, which was clearly a house. bsmith@truevestor.com. You should have a website. If you don't have a website, in this day and age, people expect you to have a website. It's a standard. You don't necessarily have to have an office or a phone. You can use your mobile phone these days. It's acceptable, but not having an email address with your company name, even if you don't have a website, you could just get you@yourcompany.com for about $20 a year. It's not expensive, but while you're at it, go on Fiverr, hire somebody to build you a decent website. Meet the mailman. Mailmen know about empty houses. One of the first deals I ever did was a mailman in Queens, New York that I found. And I said, if you know of any boarded up, vacant, or overgrown weeds, dilapidated houses on your route, please let me know. And if I buy it, I'll give you a $500 referral fee. So he found something. He says, yeah, I know this property. It's been vacant for about 5 years and it's completely trashed. See what you can do with it. He gave me the lead and I worked the lead and I made a deal. I sent him $500 a few months later. He couldn't believe it. He thought he would never see money from me. He only gave me one lead. I mean, that's the problem with people getting people leads. To give you leads, if they don't see an immediate quid pro quo, they give up. So you might offer to pay per lead as well. Mailmen know about poorly kept houses and they know it on the route. So they know when mail comes back undeliverable and all that kind of good stuff. Cruising for bucks. So just driving around neighborhoods looking for dilapidated houses, looking for vacant houses, looking for the grass grown up, looking for weeds grown up and overgrown shrubbery and so forth. It looks like a vacant, boarded up, or abandoned house. Bring your kids with you. Drive in the minivan. They'll put their headphones on and watch movies while you do it, or get them involved. Say, listen, kids, everybody who finds an ugly house, you get $1. So they're out there looking at houses. Dad, look at that one. That's ugly. Do I get $1? And if you buy the house and you make a profit, you're all going to go to Disney World. Wow. Isn't that exciting? So make a game of it with your family. It's a lot of fun. Or just hire your kids to do it. If they're old enough, they can, 13, 14, 15-year-old kid could take a bicycle and ride around neighborhoods every Saturday and look for ugly houses, take pictures with his phone or give him a digital camera or even a Polaroid. Yes, Polaroids are back. I like Polaroids because you can write the address down. Sometimes it's hard to remember what the address is on a digital picture. Code enforcement. So people who have code enforcement violations, like overgrown grass and trees that are dead and so forth, weeds in their lawn, they get code enforcement violations. So go to your county or city and see if they will give you a list. Now, they should give it to you. It is public information. Sometimes you might have to file a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act. I don't know if you want to battle with them, but if you're in an area where there's lots of them, sometimes the city or county puts them online. Sometimes you can access it or search by address, or on occasion you could download the whole list, but not every website has it. So try some online sources. Foreclosures. That's the next category. A lot of people go after foreclosures because number one, it's plentiful. And number two, they're facing a deadline with upcoming sale date. Now, the good thing about foreclosures is you can buy the list. It is public information. It's very easy to get. And you can mail to them, maybe. I don't know if I'd bother because they get hundreds of pieces of mail. People in foreclosure don't just get mail from investors. They get it from real estate agents. They get it from bankruptcy attorneys. They get it from all mortgage brokers trying to refi them, all kinds of scam artists. They get hundreds and hundreds of pieces of mail. I've met with foreclosure owners and they showed me a box filled to the top with all the things they got in the mail. So mail is not that effective unless it's something outrageous. When I say outrageous, I mean like the following. This is one I did. It worked very well. I got these what are called fake priority mail envelopes. Wish I had one here local just to hold up and show you, but you can buy them on the website uline.com. That's the letter U, Line.com. And what they are is they're basically regular envelopes that you mail first class. It's oversized, so it's a little more, but it's not priority mail, which will cost you $10 and up. They look like priority mail. There's an eagle on it and it says Super Rush Express, but it's regular mail. And in there, I would put a letter. It says on the top, I have 3 solutions to your foreclosure problem. Dear Bob Smith, I have 3 solutions to your foreclosure problem. 2 of them are enclosed. Good luck. And we stick 2 lotto tickets in there. It's $1 each. So $2, right? Plus the mailing, which is about another, $2. So for $4, you don't want to try this on, 1,000 people, but you might try it on 30 people and see what kind of response you get. And then you mail that and people will open those. Everybody loves opening the zip thing. With mail, they're usually sorting it over their garbage, but for packages like FedEx's and Priority Mail, they tend to open those things. And they may even call you right off the bat and say thanks and laugh, or use it as a setup for the call. If you can cross-reference the address or the name into a database and get a phone number and call them and say, hey, my name is Bill. I mailed you the lotto tickets last week. How did it go? And by the way, the letter says, P.S., good luck. And if it doesn't work out, call me for the 3rd solution. And of course, they don't win. If they do, great. You did a good deed, but they're not going to win. So definitely I would call. Door knock is even better. That's the best. If you're going to follow up with the letter, follow up with the door knock. But you have to follow up with something. I said mail maybe. Don't mail anything unless you're going to follow up with a call and or a door knock. Because again, they're flooded with calls, door knocks, mailers, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You got to be a little bit outrageous. Mortgage lates. These are people who are late on their mortgage, but there's no foreclosure filed yet. So you can buy a list. It's called the 30, 60, 90 list because they're 30, 60, or 90 days late. And then again, mail them. Now you might mail them because you're competing with less people. It's not foreclosure yet, so not so many people bothering them yet. But on the other hand, they're not as motivated because there's no sale date in front of them. You can call them. You could door knock. I would do probably all 3, mail, call, or text. And by the way, if you use text, they're very easy services to use. You log in online, you have an app on your phone, you blast a text, they reply, you can reply back either on the computer or on the app on your phone. Don't get into a conversation by text. The only thing the text should be is, when can I call you? Or please call me. So if they respond on the text, just click and call. Don't go back and forth with the discussion by text. All right. You want to get personal. The purpose of the text is to get a phone call. What's the purpose of the phone call? To set up a meeting so you can meet them in person and sign an agreement. Keep that in mind. The technology should not replace the basics. By the way, don't say to people you think they are behind in their payments on your advertising. You're not supposed to do that. That violates the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So don't do that. Auctions, foreclosure auctions. You can go to the auction, bid on properties. You can go to tax sale auctions, sheriff sales, DEA sales. Yes, the Drug Enforcement Administration seizes houses that are used for drugs. I, many years ago, went to a DEA auction with my mom, and we bid on a house, $17,000, and nobody else bid. Probably because there were a lot of bullet holes in the front of the house, but hey, you know, you can fix those things. And we got a super deal on a house. Also, the General Accounting Office, the GAO, you can go to their website and sign up for their list, and they will let you know when they have properties for sale. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Now, Fannie and Freddie do loans, not directly, but they buy loans from other mortgage companies on the secondary loan market. When the loans go bad and they're foreclosed, Fannie and Freddie often have them in their inventory. So if you go to homepath.com, which is Fannie Mae, or homesteps.com, which is Freddie Mac, there's a list of their owned foreclosures. So Freddie Mac foreclosures and Fannie Mae foreclosures that you can buy from their website. Now, the only thing that's really unique about these is they'll do financing, which is Fannie or Freddie, with just 10% down as an investor, which is very good because typically it's 20% down. If you could find a reasonable deal on a rental, it doesn't need a lot of work to make it rental ready and only have to put 10% down to qualify, maybe worth your while. Maybe worth your while. Tammy asks, do these lists contain accurate phone numbers? Not always, but when you're blasting to 100 people, if 20 are bad, the texting system you're using, if they can't deliver it, they will let you know or auto delete the number from the list. So if you blast again. Larry asks, how do you market to people in foreclosure in a state like Maryland where they have laws against it? I never heard of this. PHIFA, FIFA? Email me direct, Larry. I'll look that one up. I never heard of that you're not allowed to market to people in foreclosure. That doesn't sound right. There may be restrictions on it, but I can't imagine that you're not allowed under the First Amendment to mail to people in foreclosure. I can't imagine such a law exists and is legal. So, but email me and I'll take a look at it and let you know my thoughts on that. Okay. Online leads. So there are sources or companies that you could subscribe to where you could buy leads like RedX, Real eFlow, investorleads.io, and investorleads.com. Those are 4 different websites that are where you can just buy leads. They're usually for realtors or investors. So for listings or for purchasing. And again, you can upload them into a calling system, a texting system, or bulk mail them. Carrot.com is another one too. And they have websites available that they set up for investors. I've heard good things about them. Bandit Signs. We've all heard of the Bandit Signs. We all have seen the Bandit Signs. So what's the deal with Bandit Signs? So you're going to buy them in bulk because they're expensive if you only buy 10. If you buy a couple of hundred, they're about $1 each. Use just 3 lines. Don't use phone number, website, 3 lines of message, 2 phone numbers. You know, people are driving by or it's at a red light or a stop sign. So make sure it's very simple. You know, we buy houses, phone number. That's it. That's it. Keep it simple. Even 2 lines is even better. Put a phone number or a website. And if it's a website, make sure it's one that's rememberable. A vanity number is good, like 303 buy a house, 303 buy casa, whatever you can get as a vanity number, or a toll-free number like an 888 or an 800 number might be effective as a vanity number. But be judicious about their use. Bandit signs are called that for a reason, because in most jurisdictions they're illegal. Now, the question is, how illegal are they and do they enforce it? I've heard anywhere from they do nothing, they just take them down, to they just ignore them, to they go out and give out $100 fines for the first fine, 500 for the second fine, and 1,000 for the third one. If you're in that last category, you may not want to use bandit signs in your area. If you're in one of the former categories where they don't enforce it much, or the violation is only like $100 fine, it's not a misdemeanor, it's just a fine, and if you only get fined twice a year, that's a bargain. That's the cost of doing business. But don't go crazy with them and put 100 in a 3-block radius. Vehicle signs. Magnetic ones that you put on your truck or SUV. I wouldn't bother on a car because people can't see it at the red light. When you're looking at someone in a sedan to sedan, it's hard to see what's on their door. But if you're up a little higher in a truck or an SUV at the red light, someone else can see it. So you may also want to put one in the back of your truck or SUV, or maybe a license plate frame or something like that. Maybe a car wrap. If you have an old beat up minivan, you could get a wrap that makes the whole thing a big advertising piece. Don't pick your nose at the red light. People are watching. Just a little tip there. Remember that Seinfeld one? Jerry got caught in the pick. So don't pick your nose at the red light when people are watching. They're looking at your sign and then looking at you. So just a little tip there of etiquette. Employing bird dogs. Bird dogs. What are bird dogs? Bird dogs are people who go out and find deals for you. Now, the mailman was one example of it, but you could be more formal about this and pay people, put an ad on Craigslist that you're hiring people to find you, boarded up, ugly, dilapidated houses. Pay per lead, not per close. I've heard people say, you just pay them $1,000 if you buy the house. People won't wait that long. They'll give up after a week if you hire them like that. Say, listen, give me a picture of the house and the address. I give you $10. Give me a working phone number or email. Let them go online and do the research. Give you $20. Whatever. If you get 100 leads and it costs you $2,000, is that worth it? It's gotta be. 100 properties where you've got a dilapidated house, the address, the name and working phone number or email of the owner, that's gold. That's gold. By the way, don't unleash them until they know what you want. This is a mistake I made. I said to the guy, all right, go ahead and do it. So he came back with like 400 leads. Problem was, most of them were not what I was looking for. It was stuff like almost on the railroad tracks, much less on the wrong side of the railroad tracks. So say, listen, go find me 20 leads. And then you sift through them and say, okay, these 10 are what I'm looking for. These other 10, not the type of thing I'm looking for. And then say, go get me 50 leads. And you'll do the same thing. And then once you get, trained a few times, then unleash them and say, go do whatever you want, as many as you want. Property managers. Many of them are licensed real estate brokers. They can get paid for referring you or selling a house to you that another client owns. Most of them will have a few motivated clients. I would say with COVID and the eviction moratoriums, boy, you got a lot of motivated landlords who want to get out of the business right now. All right, some final thoughts, and then I'll take some questions. That's the 25 ways to find bargain rental properties. I went through it pretty quickly, so I'm happy to back up and answer some questions that you may have. Just pop them in the Q&A or in the chat. But some final thoughts before we do that. It's going to take work, so do it. No one said finding great deals in real estate was easy pickings. It's not, especially because in most cities, it's a seller's market. So there are fewer deals. That doesn't mean there are no deals. It just means there are fewer deals because properties sell pretty quickly in this market and it's easy for people to unload them. But there are people in any market, up, down, or sideways, who are in divorce, who have drug problems, who've inherited a property, lost a job, job transfer, bad tenant, you name it. There are people with particular problems, even in the hottest pro seller market. Employ at least 5 of these things, at least 5 of them at one time to get your marketing machine, and be consistent with your marketing. Consistency means you have it in your calendar, like every Monday you're doing this, and every Wednesday you're doing that, and every Thursday you're doing this. Okay, so Mondays we mail, Wednesdays we call, Thursdays we door knock, whatever it may be. But have a consistent schedule so that your pipeline is always filled. What a lot of people do is they'll try some marketing, they'll get a few bites, and then they'll follow or chase this deal through, for a month or two, and then not end up buying any of the properties, and then realize, oh, my funnel's empty. I got to start all over again. You should never have a period of downtime. If you have too many deals for you to handle, call me. I'll help you out. Don't worry about that. Always be consistent with your marketing. Set aside a monthly budget that you can afford. And it's not a cost, it's an investment. Now, it's not, exactly you put out 1,000 pieces of mail and you automatically get 2 deals. It's not that simple. Some months you might get 3 deals and some months you might get no deals. But understand, in the long run, over 3 to 6 months, just budgeting $500 or $1,000 a month, you will get deals. Follow-up is key. I said that in the beginning. At least 7 times. Me, I keep following up. Once they've called me, they called me for a reason. Even if they don't act like they're motivated, why did they call me in the first place? If everybody knows you listed with a real estate agent on the MLS, why are they calling me? Obviously, they got a problem. It's not working what they're doing. That's why they called me. Okay. So I'm going to keep calling them, emailing them, texting them, door knocking until they tell me to, jump in a lake, or it comes back deceased on the letter. Then I'm going to find out who owns the estate, and I'm going to find it. I'm going to buy the property from the estate. Donna asks about PropStream. They have good reviews and accuracy. Yes, I think PropStream is an excellent software. It allows you to do research. They do have lists. They have a CRM built in. They have automation features. They have calculators that calculate, how good a deal is as a rental or a flip, depending on the criteria you put in. Yeah, I think it's an excellent software. I would recommend them. Great. Someone writes, if anyone needs a bird dog in Denver, I have a referral for you. A young adult who likes to drive around in spare time, my grandson, now lives and works here and could use the additional money. Well, thank you very much for that, Colleen. If you want to post his email address or phone number or something, I'll put it on the chat out to everybody who is on the webinar with us. So thank you for that. All right, what other questions? Tabitha asks, out of all of the methods, which do you think you can get the most leads from? That's a question I get very often, Tabitha. And the reality is you don't know until you try. Depending on what neighborhoods you're looking in, what price range, what market, the time of the year, it could be any one of those that I talked about that are good. Personally, I've had good experience with mailing to out-of-state owners. Personally, I've got a good experience with the US lead list, the inherited properties, the landlords list, from public records. But everybody has something different. Some people say, I live by bandit signs, I die by bandit signs, or I live by truck signs. I get people who pull me over all the time or call me on the road. You just got to try. That's all I got to say. Try as many as you can until you tweak, measure what's working, what's not working, and whatever works, just do more of it. Do more of it. Okay. Do we have any more? I think that's the end of my slideshow. So I'll just do a little Q&A here. So I'll pop something in the chat or the Q&A. Be happy to answer some questions. In the meantime, I want to remind you to go over to our website for the Colorado Landlords Association, which is colandlords.com, colandlords.com, which I will post in here to everybody. I'll put the link in there. colandlords.com. And that's where you find information about our membership, upcoming meetings. And this will be, it's being recorded and is available to our members on the members section of the website. And we have all of our meetings, except for I think 1 month didn't come out, recorded there from the beginning of our meetings, all there. Okay. Oh, thank you, Colleen. The kid's name is Trevor, and I'm going to send it out to, oh, you already did. I didn't know you can do that. I guess everybody could post to everybody. So it went to panelists and attendees, Trevor's email, your grandson, who might make a good bird dog in the Denver area. Thank you. I might email him as well. Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Just pop it in the chat or the Q&A. Well, good. You've been suggesting your grandson do this, so he doesn't have much of a social life to keep him busy. Well, maybe he might meet people driving around looking at houses. Who knows? It's not a bad idea if you see a vacant or dilapidated house, is to go knock on the neighbor's door and say, hey, do you know who owns this house? Do you know where I could find this person? And a lot of times the neighbors have information that you could search online forever and never find. And they'll go, oh yeah, so-and-so, he went crazy and moved to the Virgin Islands and just abandoned his house or whatever, so you never know. Okay. All right, that's up for the questions. Thank you everyone for joining. Appreciate the questions, your participation, and we'll see you next month on our regular schedule. We met a week later this month because of a conflict, but we'll be back to our regular schedule second Wednesday in July. And I'm hoping by August to go back to live meetings. So we'll let you know, stay on our mailing list.